Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 340 of Martha Runs the World. How are you this week? I'm doing great. My cold is just about gone. Little bit of scratchiness in my voice, but that is it. Other than that, I am great. After I record this, I'm going to go for a run. I worked a lot last week. I was really tired from that, but working is money, so you got to do it. I have to pay for this podcast somehow. All right. This week is about running stuff I don't use anymore. And when you've been running for a few years or for a lot of years like me, you go through things and you try things out and you see what works and doesn't work. When we start out running, we're overwhelmed with all the cool stuff that we could use. Shoes, clothes, electronics, other things. What do we need? What is everyone else using? What is cool? What looks great? What looks fun to use? It is overwhelming. If you're anything like me, you might go a bit overboard and buy all kinds of stuff. They always say running isn't an expensive sport. Silly they, whoever they are. They're wrong anyway. Well, okay. It can be a cheap sport if you don't spend any money except for shoes and a couple pieces of clothes. But who does that? Who doesn't spend money on gear and things? I don't know anyone who doesn't buy at least a few things. So I'm going to talk about things that I used in the past and I don't use anymore. And these might be things that I used way a few years ago or many years ago and I don't use today. And I'll also mention two things that I never go for a run without. And I'm not going to include my watch. It's things like that. This is going to be two fun things. So I won't leave you on a negative note. Back when I started, many years ago, I started running in college in my 20s, so many years ago. There weren't as many resources to look up new gear. Of course, there wasn't the internet or computers. There were races and race expos if the race was big enough. I remember doing my first big half marathon, the Mercury Half Marathon in San Jose. That was long time ago, and it was really went into the hall it was in. It was like, wow, this is amazing, and I bought way too much stuff, but I loved it, and it was just a really cool place to go check out what was new, what was happening, what was going on. And I also another place that I went that I turned to find out new information about gear was Runner's World. And at that time, it was a great magazine. Of course, it hasn't been a great magazine in over 10 years, so that was a very long time ago. I should probably do an episode on the downfall of Runner's World or the downfall in running magazines in general. Actually, that's a good idea for an episode. Okay, so stay tuned for that episode. And then the other place that I would find out about stuff is through other runners at races, basically, because you didn't have groups. Of course, you didn't have computers, so you didn't have computer groups, or sites like Facebook or even MySpace to talk to people about. So you didn't have any of that. And it would be in person at races. You would see people wearing things, and you would say, "Oh, where'd you get that? What is that? What's going on? How do I buy that?" And you could go to running shoe stores to check out things as well. That was another place to do it, shoe stores. And there weren't any where I lived, so I would go up to San Francisco and go to the running shoe stores and check out things there. And I lived in the suburbs and there wasn't anything where I lived, so you had to go all the way to San Francisco. And I tried all sorts of stuff. I experimented. But back then when I first started out, you just really had shoes. You had your shorts, your tops, and a running bra, and that was really it. Oh, and a watch, maybe a Timex watch, an Iron Man Timex watch. That was the state of art. That was it. And that was really it. You didn't really have a whole lot else. But later on, when I got into running more seriously, I would say in the early 2000s, that then I started looking at things. There was, of course, more gear, there was social media, the internet, everything. Then I could actually pick out and be more choosy about what I had. So let me talk about the things that I don't use anymore. Liquid fuel replacement. When I started getting into trail running, which was many years after I'd been a road runner, I heard about liquid calorie replacement powders such as Tailwind. Now, I was a hiker for many years before I even discovered trail running. I had hiked most of my life and into my 20s, and where I even backpacked for a while. So I was familiar with trails, but I never trail ran. I know, weird, right? After a friend of mine told me, all about trail running, I got into it. And I found out that everybody at that time was using Tailwind. So Tailwind was the source to go to. 100 calories per serving. You could use it. You didn't have to eat for a while. You drink Tailwind. Okay, so I tried it. So I got a sample of it. It seemed to go down fine with no problem. And maybe my body at that time was being extra patient with me. I don't know. So I bought a bag of it and started using it on my long runs. And not too long after that, I started having indigestion problems. And I realized that every time I used Tailwind, I had to find a bathroom really quick. And sometimes there was no bathroom around. It was really icky. That's all I'm going to say. So I couldn't use it. So I gave my bag to what was left, and most of it was left, to a friend of mine who loved it. And I decided not to use it anymore. Then I decided to try Hammer Heed, and that also had the same results. I couldn't use that either. So, okay, I can't use those liquid fuel replacements. Maybe it's the fructose in it that is just too strong or something. I even tried diluting it. Diluting it didn't work. It just wouldn't sit in my stomach. So I don't use it anymore, and I'm doing fine. I don't have as many problems, indigestion problems, as I did. Sunglasses. Years ago when I started running, I tried a variety of things to keep the sun out of my eyes. I tried sunglasses before I started wearing hats. And sunglasses are great if you're always in the sun. If there's shade, they're really, really rough because as soon as I would get to the shade, the sunglasses would block too much out and I couldn't see either the road, the trail, or the sidewalk in front of me. So if there was a crack in the sidewalk, I would most likely trip. It was very dangerous and I didn't really like it. So I would have to take the sunglasses off if there was shade and then put them back on after the shade. So it was kind of a pain in the neck. So I decided not to wear sunglasses and to wear a hat instead, and that's worked much better for me. And I like my ball caps, and right now I wear an Iron Maiden cap for every race. So people know me, I'm wearing my Iron Maiden cap. That's me. Um, and so now I don't wear sunglasses at all when I run. They just block out too much for me. I can't see very well in them. So I know many runners love them, but I do not. A waist belt, or a waist pack, I guess it is, waist pack. Before I switched to a hydration vest, I used to wear a waist pack, and I started with the very basic one where you put your ID in it, and I could put my glasses case in it as well. I only wear reading glasses, but if I don't take them with me, I can't see anything to read, so it's kind of difficult for me to go on runs if I need to read something during my run or after my run. As I raced longer, I took one that also carried a small bottle of water with me. But I realized I didn't like them at all because they jiggle around and they're cumbersome. They just are a pain in the neck. And I still see runners using them, and they've gotten bigger. They carry like 2 bottles or 3 bottles of water. And I just don't see the purpose of them when you can just get a hydration vest. Hydration vests are much less cumbersome. They fit comfy around your shoulders. It's just a much better way of carrying your stuff. Especially the one I have now. The Solomon one I have now is so comfortable, I sometimes forget I'm wearing it. Now, there is one caveat. I do still have a belt that carries my trekking poles if I need them, but there's nothing else in it, and it doesn't jiggle around, and it's not cumbersome like the waist packs were for me. Now, if you like a waist pack, that's awesome, but it's just not for me. Nothing is perfect. You have to find the best way to carry your stuff. Expensive running food. Like me, I can almost guess you spent a ton of money on running food. Gels, chews, specialized stroop waffles, supercharged jelly beans. Where does it end? And some of them are really, really expensive. I saw this video on this runner. She was doing the High Lonesome for the first time, and she was doing nothing but these goos and these gels and all these chews, all this stuff, and it was just loaded down with all this stuff. And how can you eat that stuff for 100 miles? And how expensive is it for you? Well, I don't think she paid anything because I think they're a sponsor, they're one of the sponsors of the video. But if a regular person was going to buy all that stuff, that would be hundreds of dollars of food. It's just garbage. I don't know. So I like to replace a lot of that with real food. Now, I do still spend on salted caramel goos because I like those because they're one of the few that sit in my stomach well. They react well to my indigestion. They sit well. I like them. But all the other stuff I don't buy. If I want those Stroop waffles, I'll get the Trader Joe's mini Stroop waffles and take those with me. If I want something salty, I'll get some pretzels. I'll get real food like dried fruit, nuts, things like that I'll take with me. And I like them better. They just sit better in my stomach than getting these packaged expensive stuff. They're just so expensive. I also like, what else do I like? I like beef sticks. Those work really well. I like this, of course, the salted potatoes. I can take those with me. Things like that work very well instead of buying, $100 worth of packaged, expensive running food. There's all kinds of stuff that you can get instead of all that packaged stuff. And it will sit better in your stomach. Well, it does mine. I'm not sure about you, but it does me. Compression sleeves. The kind that you have on your calves. I've never had them on my arms, and I don't care to, but I did try them on my calves. I did that first when I did my first marathon. I did those on there, and I don't know if they helped or not. I've never really suffered from cramps in my calves. I've never had a problem with that. So I don't know if they helped or not. I had them when I ran Sim in 2015, and I don't know if they helped. I really don't. I had a moderate amount of soreness. I never cramped, but I wore them for a couple of years, but that was it, and then I never bought any more. So I just don't find them to be something that I'm interested in wearing. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try them again. Maybe not. It's just not something that I think about at all. Long sleeve UV shirts. I've heard so much about these shirts. I read so many articles and saw a lot of videos on how these shirts actually keep us cooler and feel great in warm weather. And then I bought one from REI and tried it out a couple times myself. And what I found was the exact opposite. Now, to be fair, it wasn't in 100+ degree weather. So maybe that's the difference. I don't know. The temps that I was in the high 80s. So it's warm enough that I thought it would be a good place to try the shirt out. It's soft and feels good. That's true. but it did not keep me cool. It made me feel so hot, and I started sweating so much, and the whole shirt was, like, dripping with sweat, and it never dried either. It felt heavy and bulky and just hot. Hot, hot, hot. I wish I could have switched to a short sleeve shirt because it just did not feel good. It just felt cumbersome and hot and ugh. I didn't like it at all. So I will not be wearing that again in hot weather. Now, if it's cooler weather, I'll put it on because I think it would keep me warmer in if it was a little cooler weather towards winter. That I'll give it, and that's when I'll wear it. So maybe it will keep me protected from the UV rays that come out when it's cooler weather, and they do come out then. Injinji toe socks. At one time, these socks were all the rage. Everyone was talking about them. So I bought a pair and tried it out, and they're pretty good. They were never my favorites. They don't last very long, that is the truth. And they take a long time to put on. They're not easy to put on. So they take a long time to put on, and they don't last. They just wear out very quickly. Now, there are a couple new brands of toe socks, so maybe they last longer. They're probably still difficult to put on. But if they last longer, then that might be worthwhile buying. But for the price, Injinjis are just not worth it to me. My favorite pair of socks are Balegas. They just are wonderful. They're a little bit less expensive than all the others because they probably don't last as long. I'm difficult with socks. My feet, my toes are a little bit weird. My baby toes have both been broken so many times they're a little bit more swollen permanently. So they're a little bit wider. My toe area is a little wider. So I have to have that big toe box. But my feet are not fat or not wide. They're normal size. So my feet are weird. But so sometimes my socks wear out faster than normal people. You know what? Things happen when you get older. When you're young, you're fine and nothing's happened yet. And as you age and as you grow older, especially as a runner, you have accidents, things happen, you break bones, you hurt yourself. That's life. Things happen. Altra shoes. Oh, Altra, why did you betray us? Why did you switch things up when we loved you the way you were? Ah, I'll never understand that. I just will never understand why shoe companies have to destroy a certain style of shoe when us, your customers, loved it the way it was. I just will never, ever understand that. I don't get it. So I'm not an Ultra person anymore, and I loved Ultra. I would shout on top of the mountains how much I loved Ultra. Not anymore. Nope. Won't buy you anymore. You messed up the two styles I loved. You really messed up Timps, and you messed up the Torins. Yeah, both of them. Oh, well. Gone are the days where I say I loved Ultras. They're things of the past. Now I wear Topos. I love the trail running shoe that I wear for Topos. The Mountain Racer 3 I have, and I love it. So it's been a great shoe. It's very comfy. I like it a lot. Now, the replacement for the Torin, I'm not as wild about in Topo. I have the Aura, but I think it just has too much cushion for me. I think something with a little bit less cushion will be fine. But it's still a comfortable shoe, and I still like it better than the new style of Torin that Ultra put out. So there's that. So that is very disappointing by Ultra. But I've talked about them enough in the past so that you know I'm not happy with them. Motivational or running books that tell us we need to be stronger and or tougher. First of all, we don't. Each of us is fighting a battle that these authors know nothing about. I'm really tired of being talked down to by authors who think they're more badass than anyone else. And it's their job to make us even more courageous than we already are. You have no idea who we are. You have no idea what we've been through. Give me a break. It reached a breaking point for me when the author of the book Endure, Alex Hutchinson, said elite runners are tougher than everyday runners, without any context, without any proof, without anything. And that was just his opinion. I mostly disagree. Sure, there are some that are. However, while running and training are all elite athletes do, they have families that support them. They have whole crews that support them. They have companies that pay and sponsor for them. So they have all this whole league of supporters who help them. Everyday runners usually have families. Some don't. Some, they're on their own and they have full-time jobs. They have to balance everything and still get out there and train. They have to get their workouts in. They have to sometimes take care of kids on their own. Some of them don't even have spouses. Some of them are single parents. They have to go to work and somehow get all their housework done besides. Like I said, some are single parents. Some have to get their kids off to school. They have to go run. They have to get to work. They have to get off work, go pick up their kids, come back, feed the kids, and still get their workouts in. Me and many others like me don't have support crews or even one-person crews. We do it all on our own without anyone telling us how good we're doing, telling us anything about any part of our workouts. When I go to a race, it's just me. It's not me and this whole backup crew helping me out. So don't tell me I'm not tough. Don't tell these single parents they're not tough. Don't tell this man who's been working his whole life and just got off and who's in remission from cancer that he's not tough. Don't do that. That is ridiculously absurd to me. I got all these people telling me what a great book it is, and I didn't think it was so good. I thought he was a admiration of elite athletes and kind of a put down towards amateur athletes. I really did not enjoy and appreciate his attitude throughout the whole book. I think there are much better books to read if you want to read about learning about running and learning about science. Much, much better ones, like The Lost Art of Running by Shane Benzie. As a matter of fact, Shane was on my show many years ago, actually, a few years ago, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful book that takes a look at different runners throughout the world, and he even goes to Kenya and talks about how the Kenyans run, and then that's the first part of the book. He travels and talks to different runners all over the world, and then the second part is about the science of running. And he does a much better job of it. He's not condescending in any way like Endure is. It's just a better book. Running clubs. I'm through with running clubs, at least in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've tried that route a couple times with different clubs, and I just found that the only ones around here are faster. Well, there's 3 kinds of running clubs here: fast, faster, and fastest. They all are. They really are. So if you're a fast runner, join a running club because you will have lots of company. They're all with young runners, and they're all fast. Those are the 2 things that you have to be in a running club in the San Francisco Bay Area. One of them said, "Oh, yeah, we have slow runners here. We have runners going 9 minutes per mile." That's not a slow pace for me. That's not a slow pace at all. Who can think that's a slow pace? Anyway. All right. So, gyms. I've decided that at least for now, and maybe not forever, I don't know, that belonging to a gym is just too expensive for me. I've been a member of a gym for many, many years, starting with the YMCA, and then lately the 24-Hour Fitness. Before COVID, I loved the Chinatown YMCA, but COVID really, really messed up the YMCA system, at least in San Francisco. First, I remember that I was out of work for 7 months, so I couldn't really, and they were closed. They were closed for like 2 years after COVID. 2 years they were closed. it was really silly because and then they had like outdoor workouts. You couldn't even go inside the gym for like 2 years. They were so paranoid and really, really overly so about their gyms. It was ridiculously bad. And I given up my membership way before that because I was out of work. So I quit. I couldn't have a gym membership being out of work. But it just took them forever to open up their gyms once more. I mean, I understand being careful, but you can be overly cautious. And it seems that they were. All the other gyms in town were all open and they were not. When I started getting back to work and I have a weird schedule, and the only gym that really worked for me was 24 Hour Fitness. So I started going there and that worked out fine. But then after my fall and my injury in late 2023, I had to cancel my membership again because it just didn't work for me. And doing strength training at home was fine because my shoulder was weak anyway, and I still don't have the strength to go back to a regular gym, and I need to save money for retirement. So those two things have kept me away, and I probably will not go back while I'm here in the Bay Area. Now, depending on where I live, where I move to, maybe they will have a gym in the apartment building, which would be nice. Foam muscle rollers. Now, I have a couple foam rollers, one that's soft and one that's hard, but I haven't used them in years. I don't know why I still have them. I'll probably get rid of them in the near future. I don't think I will ever use foam rollers again. I have a massage stick that I use. Actually, I take that with me when I travel, and then I have a massage gun. They just work better, especially my massage gun. I love my massage gun. So I use those two, but I'll never use the big rollers again. Those are things that worked in the past. I don't use them now. Those are just a few things that I don't use anymore and probably will not use. I can't, like I said, the gym, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I said I wouldn't end on a negative note. So here's a couple things that I always take on runs with me. Besides my running watch, reading glasses, house keys, and hydration vest, I have 2 mascots. That's right, 2 running mascots. They're little things. Many years ago, I was running in the Presidio and found this little plastic orange cat on the grass at Crissy Field. It had spots and looked like a little leopard. I picked it up and took it with me, and from then on, he's been on every run I take. Since then, I found another little critter, a little plastic red frog, and I take him too. Their names are Buster the leopard and Filbert the frog. And that may seem silly to you, but it's very lighthearted and just for fun. And I take them with me. They're small, and I just put them in my pocket, and they go on every run that I take. And sometimes we need something silly and fun. And I see other runners taking mascots with them, or they take a stuffed animal from one of their kids with them, or something like that. And you might as well take something fun with you. Take a mascot with you. Why not? Take something that means something to you on your runs. And they even have their own Instagram, which I will include a link on the website. So if you have your own list of stuff that you don't use anymore, I bet it's very different from mine, and that is awesome. We practice our love of running all the time, and we're bound to have things that may work for us for a while, and then all of a sudden they don't. And that's the nature of running. It's a constant changing, moving entity. It's our friend, but they change like us with time. And that's running. All right, so that is today's show, and the website is martharunsherworld.com, and my email is martharunsherworld@gmail.com, and I'll include a couple links on the website of things I talked about. And that is it. So, on that note, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.